Okay, this is Halloween 2025. Beginning on the porch, there really isn't anything. This is my neighbor's stuff. But just have the tree and some things. As in previous years, nothing really exciting out here. Stepping in, we have the ghost hanging, you can't really see, and this guy. As usual. But in the hall, in the stairwell here, I did a very autumn theme. And what I wish is that you could really smell the smell of this, because this wonderful metal trough that I found last year. Also last year I bought this marvelous autumn potpourri that Hobby Lobby had, and it was so strong. I didn't use all of it, I only used part of it, and I had it in a platter on the table in the living room, and it was so strong and the scent was so lovely that I kept it. I put it all back into the bag and kept it this year, knowing that I would use it. And I don't know if I'll use it again next year, but it is just as strong this year as it was last year. And so it's all in this trough, and it really is an inviting smell when you step into the room here. So it's just a little display of bounty for the harvest. I found these harvest color yellow and orange lights early on, and grabbed a couple just so that I could expand my harvest side of things. And let me run here into the kitchen and talk about the kitchen before I start anything of the other main. And up here again, I just did a harvest theme. My owl is up there, up in the pumpkin, and it's very similar. It's got the swags of leaves and just the pumpkins, and then this candle in the middle. Nothing really too exciting. And I did put my little signs up, my harvest signs, and so that really created a kind of a fall impression when you first come in. Put some apples here to try to fill that in, and again, it's a very harvest thing. Did put this in the window though. My atmosphere effects, ghostly apparitions. Primarily, right now I have it on a cycle for all of the ghosts, but primarily I had it on the master of the house for the reason that I'm coming to now, which is that this year, 2025, is the 100th anniversary of the release of Lon Chaney's iconic silent film, Phantom of the Opera. 100 years this year. Now, I have spent the bulk of September going through the book, the film, the Broadway musical, just gleaning information of the story and adding different elements into my decor up here, mostly in the living room and the hallway and a little bit in the bedroom. Not too much, but each one profound. So I'll try to go through all of it because a lot of it's very detailed. So we start here in the hallway, and these are new this year. I found them in a number of places, are these hanging candles. They're just like the old battery operated timer candles that I had before that sat in the stands, but these are wired with little fishing lines, and so they hang. And these, unfortunately, in the hallway, kind of a catch-22. I like the way that they assemble, because the connection is here instead of up here by the light, which I think is better. But what I don't like is that it doesn't have an on-off switch here, and that it's not, these particular ones are not timers. And in every case of these hanging candles, I had to shorten those lines because they were way too long. They were hanging down close to your waist or below, and I mean, for me, I'm not terribly tall, so I mean, it was way too long, so I had to cut all of those. And maybe they do that by design just because they don't know where you're going to apply them, and so that gives you plenty of room to change them if you need to. But anyway, so if you know anything about the film, about the story, this is box 5. That is the Phantom's box at the opera. And this is a caricature. I made this on paint, of the actual one in the Paris Opera House that has been lovingly marked as the Phantom's box. But this is, anybody who is familiar with that placard on that box will recognize this, because it's 6 places reserved, 6 seats reserved in that box, and that's the Phantom's box. Over here, and I don't have the candles lit, but over here you have letters, communications, transfer of management, as you can see here. Let me move this. That Messieurs Debian and Poligny transferring management over to Richard and Moncharmin, and they would not take responsibility after that. But then you have, of course, letters from the ghost, and these are out of the book. These particular ones are this. I pretty much made up on my own, but all of these letters, and there's some over here to Carlotta and to the managers, and they are out of the book. And then this was a little bit tricky. This isn't the fallen chandelier, what I could make of it, and I just took my rustic chandelier that I had made for an autumn theme a couple years ago, and I just wrapped it in this gold ribbon, and got all of this crystal from the craft store and attached it so that it has a richer look than it had, but still is broken. Then over here I've got mock newspaper articles about the Phantom, the accident of the fallen chandelier, and the murder of Comte Philippe de Chagny, and things of that nature. So that all came out pretty well. I was a little concerned that this wouldn't fill up, but there was enough information in the books to really, and this this picture admittedly of Comte Philippe, is actually of the actor who played the Comte de Chagny in the 1925 film. This is not actually from the film itself, but it is the actor who played the Comte de Chagny in the silent film. And then up here, gay as a cricket, is just a ghost representing the opera ghost, just living the high life out there. So then we step into the Phantom's lair, and the Phantom's lair has two parts. One is the Phantom's room proper, and then the other is Christine's. Now I'll do Christine's first because it's the most simple. The complication with Christine's room is that it's not, the Phantom's lair is not creepy like an old haunted house per se. It's just way back in a remote part of the dungeons, and it's unfortunately riddled with booby traps and things of that nature. But Christine's room is actually just a very lavish room, which my room doesn't really come close to the lavish nature of what her room was, or what you even see in the film, but it's close enough to give that impression without being too much of an interruption to my life. So I added some drapery up above the bed just to give it, it didn't really turn out as heavy. There's a little bit too much space. I think I would have liked it better if I'd have had some white shears behind it or something, but getting that up there, you would not believe what a pain that was. So I just took what I got and was grateful it wasn't any worse. But I wanted to draw that red in. So the red roses, and he gave her rings. I went and bought some inexpensive rings at Walmart because he offered her a wedding ring and just things that he would offer her, comforts and luxuries, with the red Jemmy in the back, just kind of bringing that one little element of danger, because even though it looks all nice and lavish, there is a sinister side to it. And of course I had to have a wedding veil to go along with the, and you can barely see it, but there's actually a crown. It's a tiara up there as well. So you have the wedding ring and the bridal veil there with marking his intention. And I'll pause for a brief moment to talk about my little guys here. This is the first year that I've dressed up all four of my critters. Usually I only do Warren and Buzz. Joseph was a little tricky, but I made him a phantom mask from the Broadway musical. Just to bring that element of the phantom into their dress. And I found this little, I wish it was a coat, but it's a cape with a little Sherlock Holmes hat, which I thought was really cute. And I went to dress the Canadian up as the mummy this year. But given his scarf and his snow cap, his ski cap, I'm really not sure if he looks so much like a mummy as he looks like a skiing accident victim. So you be the judge, I don't know. But then Warren, I found this chef's cap at Hobby Lobby, and I had a whole bunch of scraps of fabric, so I made him a little apron and brought my my bloodied cleaver up here and just made him a butcher. He is a butcher, and you can make what you will of that. You can decide what kind of butcher he is, but they all turned out really cute. So then we'll walk into the Phantom's lair. Now, the way that the Phantom's lair is described in the book, the walls are draped, specifically in his bedroom, the walls are draped in black, and at the top, running around the top of the wall, is the notation of Dies Irae, and of course his bed is actually a coffin, and then in one side of his room there is the organ, and this organ actually came out really spectacular. I've had many really impressive organ schemes over the years, beginning from the very first. Some that weren't as impressive, but others that were really good. This, I think, ranks among the most dramatic of all of the organs that I've had. And I'll turn on the light here because I had to divide the living room kind of into sections to accomplish everything that I needed and yet still have light. So because I have black curtains, I did not have red curtains, I only have black curtains, I decided to do the walls, instead of doing them all black, to do them a red top with a black bottom, and then the skull along the middle, because I wanted to offset those black curtains, because I knew I would be using them in here, and I didn't want it to be all black, 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 black. I needed some contrast to the black. So I decided to do this red, just picking up and keeping the red and black theme everywhere. Yes, last year I did like an orange black, but this year is all red and black, and you can see that in everything, even the choice of the opera posters. So I'll try to go through these elements one by one to try to get a full scope of it. So first of all, I traded that clock in the kitchen. I had trouble with this clock. I've had trouble with every clock that I have hung in the kitchen, because for some reason every rotary clock that I hang there stops working. Don't know why. I don't know if there's something in the, because it's hanging on the back side of a chimney from the fireplace in the apartment downstairs, and I don't know if there is something there that messes up the gearing, some magnetism that's weird. All I know is that every rotary clock that I have hung in the kitchen stops working. And so I went to Target and bought a more expensive clock, thinking, oh well, it'll hang in better. And sure enough, within a short amount of time, this one stopped working. So I took it down, took the battery out of it, and it sat for a while. It just sat without a battery, sitting on the table for a very long time. And then I came to a point where I'm like, I need to decide whether I want to keep this clock or not. So I put the battery back in, and lo and behold, it had been off of that wall for enough time that it started working again. So I don't know if it had gotten weirdly magnetized, and then having it off of the wall for a certain amount of time caused it to work again, but it works perfectly. So it's been sitting with the battery in, keeping perfect time for a long time, because usually my aqua clock is up there, because everything is aqua in this room because it's sea themed. But obviously with the black and the red, I didn't want that aqua up there. In fact, I would love to get this out of the way, but I can't really, so I'm kind of stuck with it. But so I thought, oh, I'll just trade out the clock, and so it looks a whole lot better there with the white But then I'm adding the chain elements because you can't forget that even though the Phantom has this romantic side, he also has this very horrific side to him. Of course, in the book, he was held captive by the Persian royal family and was actually the executioner of that amused the Sultana. I can't imagine being amused by such things, but he amused the Sultana by staging executions for her. It was really horrific kind of life, but anyway, so there's a blend of romance and terror in the whole person of Eric. So so everywhere there's like these elements. Even this floral arrangement, you have the red rose, but in the middle there's a center of black. There's a heart of black, a heart of darkness. That's very indicative of how Eric was. Poor thing. So up here at the top is the score of Dies Irae. Now, LaRue does not say whose Dies Irae was used. Mozart's is probably the most popular, but I chose Verdi's for a number of reasons. One, it's period appropriate because Verdi's operas were well known at the time. Two, because it is an opera house, Verdi's is a perfect choice, being a composer of opera. And also, this Dies Irae of Verdi's is tremendously more violent than Mozart's. Mozart's, as austere and strong as it is, this one makes that one wet its pants. It's very bold to start with. So I reduced it to just the choral lines, condensed it, and then just let it repeat. So there's actually 5 sections of the same music that goes all around, and then over against the other wall, it's up there, above there too. So that was some work. I had to enter it all on Note Flight and then print it, cut it down, put a backing on it, and then keep it up there. And this one, it keeps wanting to fall down, so I keep having to put more on there to stick to it, to get it to stick. But it's a nice touch, and people don't realize when they first walk in, and then they look at it closely and they realize that it's music, and they're like, "Wow, that's a detail from the book." So it really works. It really works well. And then, as I say, I've got some opera posters here, and in the middle, I was able to find, I was a quiz of what to do with this lasso, this Punjab lasso that they talk about, which had this this noose that he would use to strangle people or hang them. That's what Joseph Bouquet was hanging from at the beginning of the book. And I found this black boating rope is actually what it is at Walmart, and I was able to find the knot. This is not, strictly speaking, a regular noose as you would see it. It is a noose knot, so it will slide just like a noose, but it is a little bit more indicative of what a lasso might be, and it worked really well. So, of all of the Of all of the masks that are available, of course there's the violin having to deal with Christine's father, who was a well-known violinist. But up here you see is Black Mask. And this is getting fuzzy. I don't know why, but this is getting fuzzy. But there's the Black Mask. Now, the only mask in the book that is actually described, there's one that's actually described, and it's this one. It's a black mask that he uses when he's down in his lair with Christine. This one is a Mardi Gras mask. Very well structured, well put together. I really like it. It juts, the chin of it juts out just a little bit, but that gives it kind of a point of interest. And I found with the music that it worked really well just being up there in the corner, almost like a cornice. And so that worked really well. These lights are wonderful. I wasn't sure when I first saw them and bought them at Menards, I think. I was afraid that they would be orange. You couldn't really tell, and the box didn't really say. They looked like they could be red, but I wasn't 100% sure. And then when I turned them on and saw that they were indeed red, then I was really happy, because they give this wonderful flame. And they're really not too far off of the ones. These are the ones on the chandelier. And they're very orange. But they almost look identical. When you look at them from that direction, they almost look identical. But they're not. But they work. So, again, centerpiece, just a mimic of the chains and the death of who knows how many people down below. And then, of course, I couldn't leave out the musical. So I added the half mask for the musical, and did some fake programs, bought a pair of opera glasses, and made a little photo book. Now this is actually kind of amusing, but it's a photo book of different, it's almost like a book of memes. Has different photos from the movie itself. All of these are from the movie. Here's Lon Chaney, for example, in between takes, and things of that nature. And the whole thing is just a comic. This is one of my favorites, where she's asking him about cable. But it's just it's something to amuse people, give them something to look at, and have a conversation piece. And of course, this is the best I can do with the coffin. I'm not actually going to have a coffin in here. There isn't room, but that is enough to bring to remembrance that this is Eric's lair, and he did have a coffin that he slept in. Put some tombstones down in here, just to kind of fill in that space. And of course, I love those red eyes that glow in that one. And from just reading the book, you get an understanding that through the history of the opera house, there was a lot of death even before Eric got there. So it was always a little bit of a foreboding place, even before the story began. So again, opera posters. I found a use for the urn. There unfortunately is not a light in it, but now the mirror I had to deal with, because, you know, it is where it is. And I really wanted it to stay there, but at the same time, Eric would not have wanted to look at himself, so he would have covered it. And so that's why the creepy cloth is there, because he would not have wanted to look at his own face. And here is a very important thing. And I wasn't sure at first if I could accomplish this, but this is, if you know anything about the book and the film, it's not in the Broadway musical, but it is in the book and it is in the silent film. This is the scorpion and the cricket. He gives her a choice of the scorpion or the cricket. One will ignite a powder keg and blow up the entire opera house, and the other one will set her lover free at the cost of her staying with Eric. So that was a great use, but I wasn't sure. These are just little brass figures that are lucky figures, but they serve my purposes. I don't really care about all that, but that's what it accomplishes. So here, as I say, we have the red and black. I did buy this red cape and this skull mask and kind of cavalier hat that he used when he appeared at the masquerade ball in the book and in the movie, and as well as the musical. He appears in this, and so I just have elements there. Again, I brought the pen here because he would be composing, and so then we'll step up here, and this is the best effort that I could make of Joseph Bouquet hanging. Of course, he was hanging in the third cellar. You find out at the end of the book that he actually had fallen into the room of mirrors and had either hanged himself or some such thing, and then the phantom moved him to the third cellar. There's still supposition and mystery about exactly what took place, but of course in the book it happens right at the beginning of the story, whereas in the musical and in the film it occurs later on, but it actually was at the beginning of the book. So this is actually a copy of the mask that was used in the 1925 film. It is the creepiest of all the masks because it's like faux human. It's almost like a porcelain doll come to life. And I wasn't sure exactly how to handle all these masks at first. Then this one, I found a way to hang it up on the side of that basket and then just put a craft light under it so that it lights up. And then of course he's there next to Jack. And then of course, when the lights are out, he really shows himself there along with Joseph Bouquet. Almost like he's watching everywhere. And so all in all, it was quite a bit of work, but most of it I think was just figuring out. There was a lot of purchases. Most of the purchases really were the masks and odds and ends, but for the most part it's just a reutilization of things that I've done before, but in a way that celebrates the iconic film and brings the story back to life. And I'm really pleased with how it turned out. Not perfect, but it's reasonably well done for what I had, for the time, for the resources, and for actually what was available. But I was amazed as anything that I could find that mask, because that was my biggest concern. Yeah, but you know, it's out there. So that is Halloween 2025.